This is Harry Steele III. I'm asking the citizens of Bay Minette to vote for me for mayor August 25th. I have a great deal of experience in local government, having served for 15 years in various roles as a city planner, economic developer, and county manager in various places around the state, Gulf Shores, Birmingham, and Gadsden. I'm a Bay Minette native who's been in the private practice of law since 2011. Bay Minette has ignored its greatest asset, the Mobile-Tensas River Delta, for far too long. My platform includes a plan to annex to the river and the creation of a signature public project there. Equally as important are the issues of public safety reform and economic development. I've previously served our community on the North Baldwin Chamber Board of Directors, Baldwin County United Board of Directors, Leadership Baldwin County Steering Committee, the United Way of Baldwin County Board of Directors, and the South Alabama Volunteer Lawyers Program. I would appreciate your vote for me, Harry Steele III, on August 25th. If you'd like to know more about my platform, check out Backstory Podcast on Facebook or YouTube.
Paid for by Steele for Mayor, 601 North Shore Drive, Bay Minette, Alabama, 36507.
And I can't find a secondary issue when I propose this, but I don't care. I don't need a secondary. My own opinion is enough for me. I claim the right to have it defended against any consensus, any majority, anywhere, any place, any time. And anyone who disagrees with this, pick a number, get online, and kiss my hand.
No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed are greater than the legal services provided by other lawyers. I'm Harry Steele, Backwoods Southern lawyer and candidate for mayor in Bay Minette, Alabama, my little hometown. I'm joined today by my client and partner. How are things in Fairhope, Mr. Rip?
Very hot, very hot. The Catalyst Group is fighting tooth and nail to get back into power in Fairhope, and God forbid they do. In fact, I heard Ziegler today commenting on that, I think.
And Raines, been my partner for 25 years. You're what's a good word for you? A journalist in exile in Houston, Texas? How's things out there?
Well, it's a little warm, sweating a little bit out here in the garage, but it's worth it to be here for y'all. And political climate's starting to get a little lukewarm. They've been picking up some post office boxes around here and mail drop slots that's left, and things are starting to get a little hairy, but we'll see what happens.
Well, guys, we went back to school this week.
Yep.
Yeah.
You about the virtual school in Fairhope here went from last year 300 students to 7,000 this time.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
I don't have to eat the micropole.
Nope.
Called that one. No way 86% of the kids went back to school Wednesday.
Yeah.
So the reason this is significant is we're in the middle of a global pandemic with 20,967,027 confirmed cases globally and 760,461 deaths globally. The United States is chiming in at 5,262,116 cases with 167,369 confirmed deaths. Is this blowing anybody's skirt up yet?
Well, it should be getting some people's attention. There's a Mobile showing a little bit of good sign. According to their data released by Simpson's office, the 7-day average of new daily cases from August 8th was roughly 55. That's a significant drop from the daily average of 120 cases when the governor issued the stay-at-home order. That's from an article by Jason Johnson, a little bit of good news in Lanyap, if you want to read a little bit more details on that article, but that's a good sign.
So we're right at 1,000 cases a day, except for yesterday. We dropped to 678. And like I said, if you're reading the articles online, you know that even the state health department is saying that these tests, the information we're getting is not matching the people the hospitals aren't overwhelmed. How can we have 1,000 new cases a day and there aren't 10 new people going to the hospital every day, right? So there's thinking that maybe some of these tests
Right.
people are being counted twice. Nobody really knows, and I'm not discounting the numbers. Okay, I'm just saying we know there's an issue with testing in Alabama. So right now we've got 101,496 confirmed cases in Alabama with 1,821 deaths. That's what our curve looks
Now,
like
nationally,
now.
we've been at about yeah. But nationally, for the last 3 weeks, we've been at 1,000 people a day dying. 1,000 a day or more. That's just unreal.
Well, the numbers are very sobering. So last time we were on, we talked about leadership in Alabama and the fact that one of the very few places that has shown any leadership, aside from defying the leadership in the wrong direction, like from our sheriff here in Baldwin County, defying the state order, the governor's order, or refusing to enforce it.
Well, good morning. This is Sheriff Mack with the Baldwin County Sheriff's Office, coming to you as we start the beginning of this week to give you a little update from the Sheriff's Office and what all we have going on. As I said, the governor's order is still in effect. Yesterday, after a lot of prayerful consideration and talking to a lot of people in our community, I wrote a letter to Governor Ivey, and I stated in that letter that it's time. It's time to modify the order, and it's time to lift the order on our businesses. It's time to lift the order on our religious institutions and allow everybody to get back to meeting and get back to business. You know, I'm confident in the people of Baldwin County and the people of Alabama have proven themselves that they have taken this issue seriously, that they are going to take all the recommendations, and we know that there's going to be recommendations. We know that there's going to be some restrictions as we go on through this pandemic, such things as wearing protective masks or practicing social distancing, or even perhaps limiting the number of large groups or people that can be in one location. But that responsibility should lie with the people. That responsibility should lie with each business and with each religious institution. And so I wrote a letter yesterday asking Governor Ivey to immediately modify her current order and allow Alabamians to go back to work and to go back to worship. I think this is important to our community. In that spirit, I've also, in consultation with my deputy sheriffs and other law enforcement, I have also added that while we will continue to notify businesses if they are in violation of the governor's order, we'll notify them that the governor's order is still in place, because there are other institutions out there that are a part of this. There's the health department, and there are many regulatory agencies outside of the sheriff's office that have a say in the enforcement of that rule. But the sheriff's office will not take any law enforcement action on those businesses or on those religious institutions that are wanting to meet and wanting to get back to business.
The city of Tuscaloosa seems to be the shining light on the hill, so to speak. In anticipation of 20,000 people coming to their small little town with their hospital at capacity, they came up with some pretty draconian measures related to private businesses and how many people can be in a bar and when you have to stop serving alcohol and a lot of things that were very unpopular. But I think history will prove that they were very prudent. What do you guys think?
Well, personally, I think that I commend him for it, because you know damn right well when we were that age and we were in school, we didn't listen to anybody. So somebody better be coming up with some rules and looking out for people. And like you said, Tuscaloosa is a pretty small town, and it's all major campus just bleeds right into town. So they have to do something to be careful, because the way it spreads, it gets loose on them, it'll be all over campus.
Certainly. So, Raines, I hear Texas is just unbelievably covered up. Are you seeing that?
As far as people wearing masks,
Well, I'm talking about just as far as COVID numbers being crazy.
yeah, they're pretty high. They're going to stay high. A large portion of that is the disparate nature of this virus infecting minority communities, and not because they're black or because they're Hispanic, is because they live in conditions that further the spread of any kind of contagion. And that's a big portion of our population in this state. And it's a big portion of the population here in our city. And it's running through that. And it's not good. And there's not a lot of testing and reporting in those two communities because we have access to testing, but there's still not good access to testing. You got to wait in lines, and I don't know anybody that's going to stand outside in this heat that's asymptomatic to get a COVID test. I just don't. I don't know of anybody in their right mind that would want to. The other half of that is that we have a very conservative, liberty-based, that's a very polite way of saying it, a very liberty-based group of people here in Texas that call themselves Texans, and you're not going to tell them what to do. And if you told them, since you told them to wear a mask, they're just not going to do it. And those are the ones I have absolutely no pity for at all and no empathy for at all. The other communities that don't have good access to the testing, that live in such conditions, and because poverty affects them the way it does, it running rampant through there, that's tough. And I've got some empathy for that. But the QAnon crowd and the Red Hatters here in Texas, well, you guys all go lick stairwells for all I care. You're not going to do anything to help stop this.
They're having the same problem with migrant workers in California and Florida. It gets into their camps or workplace there and really does spread. So, I mean, I'm sure it's the same thing in Texas.
So it's very obvious that Raines and I are on opposite ends of the political spectrum, left from right.
You think?
We all agree with that? So in my little hometown, I walk into the hardware store where I've been every day, every week of my life since I've been born. And somebody there asked, "I hear you running for mayor. Are you running as a Republican or a Democrat?" I was in Dale Champ's parking lot in Fairhope, Alabama in 1991, handing out handbills for Taney Brazel. I am the original Republican Party. Because I do not buy into Tea Party horse manure nor red MAGA hat mania, I'm not Republican enough. Now, does that make any sense? When all this is over with, I'll still be here firmly on the right, but without all the crazy.
Let's hope so.
Well, I'm dead center. I'm independent, so.
Well, but you have to. When you look at what the left has embraced, especially at the national level, you're just going, my goodness. Well, there's so many wonderful people that they could have run, or so many wonderful people that the Republicans could have run. When it's all over with, I'll still be a Republican. I'm just not buying into all this crazy stuff.
Well, it's crazy, all right. Because I don't ever remember in my life. I don't remember in my lifetime it ever being like this ever.
Okay, so here's a little inside information, Paul Rip. You ready for it?
All right.
This is to the Baldwin County Bar Association from our presiding judge, Jay Clark Stankowski, and he's telling us that jury trials will begin September 21st, and there's new procedures because of COVID-19 related to jury summons. So tell me how you think this is going to go, Raines. New jury summons will be sent to you in the mail, and you'll go online and sign in with a PIN number and do a short questionnaire, and then from there we will, what?
Oh yeah, that's just going to work great.
And so if you don't have internet or don't know what you're doing or whatever, you can call the clerk's office. Well, hell, they need to hire 12 more girls to work in there. if this is going to be the procedure. And then, of course, they're saying, oh, and the summoned jurors, we've taken all potential cautions, sanitized surfaces and mandatory masks, temperature checks for fever, social distancing, contactless sanitizing station, limited number of people permitted in an elevator, limited number of attendees in the courtroom, use of large courtrooms only, a newly configured jury box and jury seating that will permit the jurors to be seated at least 6 feet from the others. And, you're sitting there on a jury and you're trying to discern if someone's on the stand is telling the truth. You can't see their face. What's the point of a jury? We're going to take the inflection in their voice as our indicator of whether they're being truthful or not. There's a reason we have people in the room, and the reason it's a jury of your peers. And there's a reason it's in person, not like Judge Dredd, where we're sentencing people via the internet, right? I don't like it, not one little bit. But I don't.
You're a trial lawyer.
So the jury is set up how? How's the jury set up?
I just read it off to you. Social distancing, only using the large courtrooms. The jury screening procedure is going to be online with a questionnaire with a PIN number. That's how it's going to go.
Well, yeah, no, but I mean, you said about not being able to see
if you got a mask over your face. What I'm saying is, if I'm on the jury and somebody's in the box, I want to be able to see them rub their face, do the expression on their face tells you as much as what's coming out of their mouth.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know how it's going to work, but we're gonna power through this no matter what. Right?
Harry, you're a trial attorney, and you're a courtroom attorney. And you like getting in there in the mix. How long is it going to take for a trial attorney challenges this order under voir dire procedure?
Besides me and the attorney that leaked the mayor slapping the magistrate last week, I don't know of an attorney that got the spine to say a word.
Yeah.
The fate of the Baldwin County Bar, ladies and gentlemen.
I
Making
agree.
friends and influencing people.
Right. I think, how many days is it now? Mr. Hubbard's been out of jail.
Oh, well, that's another thing that, we were going to talk about. The state of law enforcement at the state level is so laughable that I don't even know what to say about it. I'm tired of talking about it ad nauseum and giving people countless examples all around us, right here in my own little town. And what I'm saying is, I'm going to clean up my little patch. Paul Rip's trying to do it down there in Fairhope. Jim Ziegler was on the Jeff Poor show today, Paul. You'd have been proud of him. He was talking all about all this developer money down in Fairhope. Can you imagine that? And he said they run, all the developers are running somebody against Mayor Wilson, and she was one of the heroes that helped kill this bridge. This $2 billion, rape of the public coffers. And then he went on to say that there were 3 developer-backed council members they really needed to get rid of. And I have a feeling that you have a sneaking suspicion of who those people might be, Paul.
Right. That's the 3 B's, Brown, Boone, and Burrell. And I can tell you, Fairhope is asleep.
I have a recent photograph.
The
3 B's.
There's the 3 B's. And if they get back in, I'm going to tell you, Fairhope will take a nosedive within 6 months because, and the first thing they'll do is give away the Triangle property as a conservation easement so where they can lock it up to where nobody can do anything with it, including the city. I'm just hoping that that people in Fairhope, Daphne, Spanish Fort, right there where you are in Bay Minette, realize the danger of this group, Catalyst / Scott Boone Consulting. These are all supported by developers that do not want any impact fees. They don't want anybody involved in any of their business. They just want to be able to do what they want to. and also run the town. They'll take back over planning and zoning in Fairhope. That'll be one of their first goals, I can assure you.
And we don't necessarily need to have a big spider graph on the screen in front of us, but it is 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon from every single one of these people. Snedeker being partners with Tom Mitchell being Bob Will's brother-in-law.
Yeah.
I mean, you every single one of these catalyst candidates through some developer or family relation or whatever. And I know it's a small county, but it's a little too little too consistent to be an anomaly.
Yeah, and in 2018, Catalyst ran a slate all the way through the county, and if it wasn't for 2 or 3 different blog sites and some exposure, they could have been owning the county. I mean, if they had got all their candidates in, we wouldn't be talking right now. And that's what they're trying to do on a municipal level now through all of these towns. Their big prize that they want, of course, is Fairhope, because that's the home base of Catalyst. But their next big prize they want is Daphne, and they have 3 candidates running there. But we'll get to that in a minute, I guess.
Paul, right now, it's kind of unbelievable that one lawyer would be in a position where they would have 3 motions to reconsider with 3 different judges. And just to kind of nutshell them real quick, one of them is, of course, the McSherry case, where I've been ordered to turn over all my communications with the Lanyap newspaper. Now, who exactly are we blowing our nose on the Constitution for in this case, Paul?
Right.
Ronan McSherry, right? So
correct.
That's the first motion to reconsider. The other one, and you talked with her mother. I don't want to go into her name or whatever, but I had a client who had taken she was found guilty of being a youthful offender. And anyways, there were some things that she was supposed to get done, and she couldn't get them done because of COVID, but because we were all at court anyway, they decided to drug test her, and she failed for marijuana. So the judge put her in jail for a year. And now she's sitting in the jail with COVID. So that motion to reconsider is on the table. And then the last one, I had a DR case where my client was the petitioner. We presented our case pre-COVID. Then we didn't have the second half. The other side went post-COVID. And of course, the judge in her ruling applied the wrong legal standard. So I have to go back and say, Judge, we talked about this pre-trial. It was a long time ago. If you would, my client feels like you didn't even look at your notes. Would you please go back and reconsider your motion? So how in the world that can all happen to one guy at one time is a total mystery to me. On the
law
and hammering children for
on that McSherry case, we were assured by the Catalyst city attorney in Fairhope that he would be refiling those charges of assault, which has not happened. He keeps insisting he's going to do that, but that hadn't happened at all. So we'll have to see what the next chapter in that story is,
so
Paul, which I think is going to be coming up real soon.
It's just like I told you, man. There's no will at all out there for anybody to look into any of this stuff and dig. There's no will.
That's sad. It's sad. It's affecting us all as taxpayers. I mean, people worry about crime or something getting held up by a gun. We're getting held up every day by our own politicians, and they're holding us up for a whole hell of a lot more money than just a robbery, I tell you. But we don't do anything. We don't address it. We try to go after it. Nothing.
Ziegler doesn't know the terminology, but of course we do. And we know that Catalyst, or whatever they're calling themselves now, is a storefront for developer money.
Absolutely.
That's it.
That's all they are. And they're completely in control. And I, for one, am going to clean up my little patch.
And I'm going to try to clean my patch up.
And then we'll move on to bigger and better things. But
if Mayor Wilson does not go back in there, I'm telling you, you will see a difference almost immediately negatively. What will happen? I can tell you.
so
They are not competent enough to run the city.
just real quick, back to the McSherry case. The night you went to the meeting and were told that you couldn't understand a one sentence rule of criminal procedure, the city attorney assured you that he was allowed under appellate procedure, that it told his statute, and that he could refile this thing. Still hadn't done it as of today because I've checked. I'm not aware of any rule that allows this. Of course, I'm just a small town pizza lawyer. What do I know?
I know. You know, it also, there's also goes a lot deeper too, because, you know, you got the mayor in Spanish Fort that slapped the magistrate on camera. And then you got this guy McSherry knocking this girl off of a bar stool. Both of these are on camera. Both of them involve women, and you don't hear anything from the 3 Bs on the city council. 2 of them are good friends of McSherry. But we don't hear anything about it. Is this how we treat women in Baldwin County? I mean, no one is addressing this issue at all. They keep, in Spanish Fort, they keep putting it off. And Fairhope, they just covered it up. They just didn't do anything.
All right.
Amazing.
Well, I think we've come to the point in the program where we turn it over to Mr. Rip for the Rip Report.
Let's hear it.
Well,
hold on 1 second.
Well, one of the
1 sec.
All right.
High-stepping turkeys, and you know what to say about a high stepper. No step too high for a high stepper.
I think that should be the intro to the Rip Report from now on. So, my bad. Go for it, Paul.
All right. Well, like I was saying a minute ago, this catalyst threat is big, and I know people are in their homes a lot more. We're not reaching quite the audience that we want to. We're not that old in this podcast thing, but the people of Daphne are just like Fairhope and Spanish Fort. They all have these catalyst people that are running on the tickets. Now, in Fairhope, of course, is the home base of Catalyst, and Boone, Brown, and Burrell are the 3 remaining council members, and they have 3 fresh faces running against them. People that are not involved in the politics here, that are running for the first time. We have a African-American man that is now on the council through not having any opposition in that seat. So Joshua Gammon is a young man running against Boone, and Deb Hopkins is running against the worst one of the 3 Bs. That's Jack Burrell. And then Howell Gibbons is running against Mr. Brown, who has complaints with the Attorney General as well as the Ethics Commission. Of course, I'm sad to say that doesn't really mean anything in the state of Alabama. But I hope Fairhope will pay attention. This is huge. This is bigger than any other election that they've had in a while. They pretty much cut the head off the snake with the last election. This election, they got to get rid of the body, and that's the 3 Bs. In Daphne, you've got Mr. Carey, Hughes, and Olin. All 3 of those are the ones that are running for under the Catalyst banner. Now, Mr. Hughes insists he's not Catalyst, but his sign is made exactly identical to Carey and Olin and sitting right there beside it. So, and you've got good people over in Daphne running. Mr. Lejeune, who has been involved with the city for quite some time, and Selena Vaughn, both of them are running for the position of mayor. So I'm hoping that somebody's going to be in a runoff with Mr. Carey on the mayor's race. And then in up in Spanish Fort, we got the mayor, who is the one that slapped the magistrate, he's running under the Catalyst banner. And then Mr. Gus Foston, I believe it is, he's running against Steve Gibson. He seems to be supported by Catalyst quite a bit. And then, of course, up there where you are, Harry, you got one of the kingpins of Catalyst. He's got the whole town tied up. Your present mayor, who is very reluctant to answer a ton of questions. So
here's the thing. So every year forever, and I was on the chamber board for who knows how long, and served as a junior ambassador in high school and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I kind of feel like it's my building. Anyway, the Chamber of Commerce, who has held a candidates forum, or meet the candidates, or whatever you want to call it, a debate, forever has decided this year they're not going to do any of that. The board voted. So do you want to guess who all the board members are?
Yeah.
Paget, the guy at the power company, Bob's friends.
Oh, so there's no debate or anything?
Not even a meet the candidates night put on by the chamber. And of course, Mr. Rip, you were a member of the chamber as the proprietor of the Backwoods Media LLC. The North Baldwin Chamber of Commerce decided. Now, this is the same chamber where when we had the raffle last year, the mayor won the side-by-side, what do you call them, a razor. It's like a souped-up John Deere gator for hunting. Mm-hmm. $20,000. He won the damn raffle on the thing. I mean, it's just... They in charge of the bingo up here, boys.
Yeah. Well, good luck up there. I can't believe that you're going to have a mayor's race, and the Chamber of Commerce is going to do nothing but turn a blind eye to it because they want to support their candidate under the table. That speaks a lot for the chamber, I'll tell you.
Yeah, and all I'm talking about doing is annexing to the river, rebranding Bay Minette, the gateway to the Delta, doing economic development, selling those bungalows down at Steelwood, and taking that $800,000 and marketing the 3,000 acre mega site. Right. Like practical things to do in a place that should be growing like a weed. Instead, we don't have a fried chicken joint and we don't have a barbecue joint because you're soon going to have a brand new 640 bed jail in the center of Bay Minette. Well,
that's going to be the next.
I don't know that I can monkey wrench the jail project. I think that the signatures are. I think everything's a done deal on the city of Bay Minette abandoning their police station. That there's absolutely nothing wrong with. But going and spending $4 or $5 million in Bay Minette for a new police station is the last thing on my list of things to do. Okay. Right on. So they might be new police station might be down at Holly Hills Country Club or something. When we put it to some kind of practical use in a town where 12 people own golf clubs.
Yep.
How many of the population play golf in Bay Minette?
I don't know. It's a very, there are people that play golf here, but it was a private little snooty thing for a long time. And then the city took it over after it was run down and dropped $300,000 on the renovation and so forth and so on. And it's just a money pit. Why in the hell would we hold on to that? But I'm just one person, right? I'm not Bob Wills coming and saying this is what we're going to do. I'm saying I have some ideas and I'd like to build a consensus and this be our project. This be our idea. Let's make Bay Minette what we want it to be. Together. Because I can promise you, all this annexing out to the west towards the mega site, because when the Baldwin Beach Express comes through here, it's going to grow organically that way. We have an opportunity to annex to the river, Spanish Fort, and the Catalyst mayor down there and who knows whatever else. He's steady marching with Baldwin County Sewer Service up 225 towards Patrick's Landing, Cliff's Landing. All these places are just to the west of town. And it makes no sense for Spanish Fort to stretch from I-65 to I-10 and all along the waterfront at the Causeway.
Yep.
We have an opportunity, and we're going to miss out, and the environment is going to miss out. I hate to bring this up, but Baldwin County Sewer Service is not regulated. Their rates aren't regulated. They have free use of the public right-of-ways. The only thing that's regulated is when they discharge their effluent.
Well, Harry, I got a call today. I hadn't had time to check it out, but I had a call from a woman today where they're complaining about Baldwin County Sewer dumping sewage on these fields, on a couple of fields that they have, where they go out and they just distribute it over the field. And I've seen that happen before, and I didn't know how in the world you could ever get a permit to do that, but they said that it's on a regular basis. So we'll have to see, but you're right. Here we are, one of the largest counties in this area, and we don't have a regulation on the sewer. That's going to catch up. That's going to catch up to us in Baldwin County sooner or later. I guess it's going to have to affect or impact.
There's just so much. There's just so much processed human waste that you can put into the environment safely. Now, I don't know what that amount is, but this entire county is covered in creeks and water, and there's a reason that the main roads run down old Indian trails is what they do. And when you go into an area like the Golden Triangle, the reason there's nothing there is the headwaters of Fish River. And they want to put 7,000 houses on it. And the town of Loxley's just sitting there, yeah, give us all you got. Just eating it up.
Well,
and then the last portion of my personal platform is public safety reform. Okay. And I've talked to several people, including our former chief of police, and I want to create a public safety committee, and I want this new committee to help me find a new chief. I don't know how I can be any more clear about my intentions. Now,
that sounded pretty.
This is the same chief that was involved in the seatbelt case. Remember, boys? The one they revoked my security pass over, and this whole leading to my eviction from the building and leading us here today.
Yeah, the only case I've ever heard of in my life of a person being killed by a seatbelt in a moving car, and he strangled himself to commit suicide. That doesn't sound fishy, does it?
Not around here. Sounds like Tuesday.
And then we find out the boy is a confidential informant, and that doesn't raise anybody's suspicion either.
Well, it did mine. How about yours, Rain?
Yeah, really.
I do recall, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, Paul, the signs, they're all clustered. It's no question that all of these people are running as a block. They're all being represented by the old Catalyst, the new Scott Boone Consulting. Is that right? Brown, Burrell, Boone, and Cherry.
Correct.
And these are the people that Ziegler was talking about, yes?
Right.
As far as you know, you didn't actually hear it. I did. So that's what they said.
Yeah.
And
well, that's
of course.
Go ahead.
All of Mayor Will's stuff is on plastic pipes. Telltale sign. We're gonna pull in statements and see exactly who's giving him money and exactly who's running his campaign. And we'll do that for you next time.
Well, and talking about the signs and everything, you have the city attorney of Fairhope with the opposing attorney, Sherry, running for mayor, and he has her sign. He's a city attorney. He has her sign in his front yard. I mean, in his front of his business, catty corner to the city hall.
Like I said, Paul, sounds like a Tuesday around here.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so Paul, tell us who the Google of Goat Hill is.
The who?
This is just so unbelievable that I may have to so let me explain this to people. So there is an electronic service that is privately owned in Alabama is called Alicourt, and they provide all the clerk's offices with an electronic index of everything that's filed. They then go provide this service to attorneys to pay to save them a trip to the clerk's office so they can access anything through the internet anywhere, right? So guess who owns it? Drum roll, Paul Rip. Go for it.
Well, I hadn't got the that came
on the spot.
No, yeah, I got
former Speaker of the House and the Jug Man. And by the way, one of the most powerful lobbyists in the state of Alabama, Steve Wyndham. His wife, Mary Wyndham, who used to be the chamber director here in Bay Minette, is on the Court of Criminal Appeals.
Well, that's, the article in Lanyap was very thorough. It's the cover story by Gabe Times. Local firm made Alabama a pioneer in court technology. I read it one time, but it's one of those articles you almost got to read it a couple of times to get the meat of it. But it's very, very interesting the way the thing's set up. To me, my question would be, what type of security is there with the principals? I mean, the principals that are operating this, it seems like to me that they'd be able to get into Alicourt and do whatever they wanted to view without anybody even seeing it.
Just like if the National Criminal Database was held by China. That's about how comfortable I feel about a bunch of lobbyists having access to every scrap of paper filed in every clerk's office in the state of Alabama. I don't know about you guys. Oh, and by the way, sometimes stuff just mysteriously disappears.
That's what I was going to say. I know of two different cases. One where a person was just appointed a judge over there in Mobile.
Start with a W.
Wyndham. That just seems to be related to the other guy, Wyndham.
Might be. Of course, it wouldn't be right for us to speculate about that, Paul.
Right, but I've heard documents have gone missing in Alicourt, and I know that, go back to it, there were some in that McSherry case, McSherry's convictions, some of those were expunged and they could never understand where they went either. And so there's a big question about that. I guess that'll come up in court too if we ever are allowed to go to court, or maybe they'll figure out a way to wash out all of the charges where they don't even have to go to court over the McSherry thing,
Yeah.
That'd be my preference. I'm tired of going to court about it.
Yeah, I bet. And we ain't got to the meat of the problem.
So tell us about the we watched it last time, but what was said on the record about the mayor slapping the magistrate down there in Spanish Fort, Mike McMillan?
Well, the article Candid Camera, video released of Spanish Fort mayor's alleged assault. That's by Gabe Times 2. The big thing is the issue of attorney-client privilege between David Conner and the defendant with respect to criminal charges remains outstanding and has to be resolved before a trial.
So, Paul, let me stop you here. This sounds like a really bad bar question that everybody gets right. Imagine he didn't slap the magistrate. Imagine he shot her with a pistol. Can you imagine any scenario where Mr. Conner would be able to claim a privilege and say he couldn't be a fact witness to say, yes, this guy shot this person? Of course not. And it doesn't matter what the crime is. If he's a witness to it, there's no privilege there. It's a bad bar question, and everybody who takes the bar exam would get it right. We don't need the appellate court or the bar to tell us that what Connor's saying, it doesn't hold water.
Well, not only that, but you see, people want the legal system to work. The legal system has got to work. So when they see cases like the McSherry case or the McMillan case up here, where it's on film, and we just beat a damn dead horse to death over and over again. It's on film. I mean, it just seems to me that there'd be a clear way to get to the meat of the problem and address it rather than all the legal wrangling and, like you're saying, just come up with questions that shouldn't even be brought up. But procrastinate. That's what they do here, and not answer any questions. And that is one of the problems. That's one of the things that has come up on the with the internet as far as social media and the elections. If you give me a minute with that, what I'm saying is that a lot of the candidates before, particularly in Fairhope, they just procrastinate and don't say anything or respond at a city council meeting. So you can't get an answer. Well, because of the COVID, they're having to use the internet more and social media more. But there are certain sites that are knocking people off if you challenge those individuals. And what's happening is you ask Mr. Burrell a question about his police report. Well, then it's all of a sudden it's gone. And you're knocked off of the site. Okay, so this is another way of censorship that we're seeing over there. Now, I'll tell you something that's going to happen next week. I will guarantee you, I will put money on it. Next week, you'll start seeing signs disappear. They'll start stealing signs and disposing of signs all along the road. I mean, they do it every single election in the last year. And this year you got all of the Catalyst group running together. Watch and see. It won't be their signs missing.
Mm-hmm. So I called, I'm driving along in Bay Minette and I see all these wheel signs on white PVC pipes on the right of way. So I called the division engineer and I just say, hey, are y'all just not going to enforce the prohibition of putting political signs on the right of way? And he said, well, so long as they're not, because I realized that Mayor Wheels is your local council. If I put my signs up, DOT best not come down here and snatch them all up. Wink, wink.
Right.
And he said, just so long as it's not blocking the view. So you got that little wrinkle. And then you got the little wrinkle of the coal ash pile over here that we've been, it's 3 miles from my hunting camp, about a mile from the Bottle Creek Indian mounds that are 3,000 to 4,000 years old. One of our cultural treasures. And, the mayor here is local corporate counsel for Alabama Power Company, which I don't know if that would prevent him from speaking out against them related to this coal ash pile and potential poison getting into our drinking water around here. But I haven't heard a word, and I've been very vocal about it. I want that coal ash gone, and I want it put in a lined landfill. And the funny thing is they got an appropriation, or they got approval to increase their rates by the Public Service Commission to do something about it. And what did they decide to do? Bury it and leave it on the side of the river.
Yep.
Completely unacceptable, and nobody in Baldwin County has even said a word.
It's just like the Baldwin County sewer. Sooner or later, that's going to come back on us. And then when it does, what was the gentleman's name we talked to, Harry, on the coal ash with
Cade Kester? That you talking about the mayor up in at the Gaston plant?
No, when we talked to him about comparing what it would be like versus BP when we had the BP spill, and they said it would be like 5 times worse.
Yeah,
like
it
5 times
look
worse.
like a yeah,
and that becomes all that
oil in the bay.
Right. It'd come down and flush the whole bay full of this stuff. I don't know how in the world you
Dixie Bar would no longer be a white sandbar. It would be stained black until the end of time, and everything would be dead.
Keeps insisting, looking at us with a straight face and saying, we need a little bit more money, but don't worry.
Anybody wants to do a little research, go Wikipedia what an alluvial aquifer is. and it will explain to you exactly how this material is moving through this sandy gravel between the river and the water table that's coming up under this daggum pile of poison. I don't know what else you call it.
People of Montgomery County, Texas, who happen to be viewing this podcast today, that's alluvial, ALLUVIAL.
Okay, so Paul, I hope you're done with the lagniappe because we got to move on. We got to get to football, man. Range, you're on.
I'm pretty much done on the lagniappe thing. Everybody should try to get one next week. I don't know if it's going to be if it's going to have a pay line on it or not. But next week will be a real big pre-election one. So there'll be a lot covered in it, particularly the Fairhope thing. The only thing I want to close with is just trying to tell people, not only in Fairhope, but in Baldwin County, the Fairhope, Daphne, Spanish Fort, and up there where you are, Bay Minette, that this catalyst threat is very, very serious. These people, they're much like the Club for Growth. Once they sponsor you and they get you elected, well, then they come back and they tell you how to vote. And that's where the danger comes in, is that you've got this clique that they're trying to establish throughout our whole county, which can override all of us because we put them in there not realizing what was going on. So if they're a catalyst candidate, vote for the other person, please.
I bet. I mean, heck, I'm the reason I helped get this guy elected mayor, just like I worked on Chris Elliott's campaign.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was. I just took people at their word. So,
all right.
Football reigns.
Well, college football. Where to start? I can tell you right now that the president of the NCAA, Mark Emmett, pulled a page out of the White House playbook and made an announcement last night at 7 p.m. that said, basically, we're not going to have fall championships for anything in the NCAA except college football. Now, I say that, I probably could have been clearer. He basically said at 7 o'clock last night that they're not going to have fall sports for any sports except college football, because even the president and chairman of the NCAA is powerless to mess with the money involved in college football. Now, track, basketball, swimming, fencing, all of it, all NCAA sanctioned sports are basically going to have championships in the fall, period. But he didn't mess with college football because he can't. Now, right now, we've got a number of NCAA football leagues. The Big 12, the Pac-10, of course, and there's some smaller ones that you never really think about. Southland, Patriot League, SWAC. Got a lot of football teams
the
in
MAC,
Southwest
SWAC.
in Alabama. Big Sky, Pioneer, Missouri Valley. Those are all smaller leagues that are all under the guise of the NCAA, be they Division I or Division III. They're not going to have championships this fall. Okay. What the NCAA wants to do is have 2 seasons for college sports in 2021. A spring season and a fall season where there's 2 championships for 2021. That's a viable plan, except there's one thing that nobody's talking about, and I'm waiting for a bright young lawyer at the ACLU to bring this up. It's 4 words. Goddamn Title IX. Had nobody said a word about Title IX, for those of you that don't know what Title IX is, it's a federal law that says if
women get
the same amount of sports that men do. So if football carries on and women's track does not, that's a Title IX violation. We're going to wait and see how that turns out, but I'm going to say maybe you might have heard about it here first. Back to the NCAA. the president made this announcement last night. We're supposed to have a conference next Thursday. And the big conference is, of course, among what they call the Big Five. And those are people like University of Alabama Athletic Director Greg Byrne is a member of the Big Five. These are money schools. These are big-time TV schools. These are championship programs. And they hold a mighty big axe over sway in the NCAA. I don't care what anybody on Twitter, Facebook, this podcast, or any other form of social media says. College football has absolutely nothing to do with student athletics. It is all about TV money, period. And I'll underscore that twice. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars in TV money. The SEC holds the corner on that. And Alabama being the premier leadership team of the NCAA, and no, that's not a jab at Auburn. That's just an economic fact.
Yeah, no offense taken.
The University of Alabama says we're going to have football this year. What the University of Alabama is not going to have are people in the stands, because it's not about collegiate athletes.
So you know
it's
what
not
you
about
said about
fans. It's not about any of them. It's about football TV money.
Okay, you know what you said about Texans going to do their own damn thing if you leave them alone? Yeah. Whether there's anybody in the stands or not, there'll be 100,000 people in Tuscaloosa tailgating.
I don't I was really hoping the mayor would get on today, because I wanted to talk to him about how he feels about what happened in Sturgis, South Dakota last weekend.
Corona Fest?
Yeah, well, it was a huge.
I went to Sturgis and all I got was this tattoo and Corona.
All I got was this tramp stamp and my picture on the internet. The business people of Sturgis raised the point, you cannot forbid us to participate in this event, because this is basically all the money we make all year long. You're basically putting us out of business. Can the mayor of Tuscaloosa forbid fans from coming? No, he can't. He doesn't have the power to do that. And he would be tied up in court from every single vendor or business owner in the city of Tuscaloosa. What the mayor of Sturgis said is that best we can do is prepare our citizens for this event to happen.
To act like a winter storm is coming and shutter the damn doors. And
that's exactly what they did in Sturgis. That's exactly what they did in Sturgis. And I wanted to ask Mayor Maddox about what his plan is to accommodate 500,000 fans descending on that town to tailgate to watch Alabama football when they can't get into Bryant Denny Stadium. Now, the impact that's going to have on football is this. There is not going to be an FBS championship this year, period. You cannot make the equation work when you've got two major conferences out. The NCAA has said
will there be an SEC championship game in Atlanta?
That is a distinct possibility, because some of the conferences are saying there's teams in the Big 12. Nebraska has said, look, we're going to play football. Now, whether we play football for the Big 12 championship or not is going to be the NCAA. The NCAA has said if 50% of the conference of participating major conferences do not hold football programs this year, we cannot qualify an NCAA champion in 2021.
Right.
We still have the jury's still out on 5 big conferences, and SEC being the paramount and number one. The SEC is going to play football. They are following the model that the NBA is following, the bubble. I can tell you right now, the Mayor Maddox was on TV in Philadelphia just the other night, and they asked him, are student athletes safer on the field in the football program than they are out in public? And he said, well, in the case of University of Alabama, absolutely. And I can tell you right now, Coach Nick Saban is the Lord High and Master of all things that happen within his domain. And if he says every one of my student athletes is going to be confined to quarters except for workouts, that's going to happen. So there is a possibility that they'll be able to manage their own athletes and manage their own program where coronavirus won't be a risk. What Nick Saban can't do is say, hey, guys, don't come to Tuscaloosa to watch football.
Okay, so two things. Tommy Gallion, in his recent book, Shadow Government Southern Style, says the NCAA is the most corrupt POS org in the world. That's number one.
I wouldn't agree with that at all. Apparently, he's never heard of the Mexican Federal Police Force, but
I was going to say there's a lot of competition there.
There's a lot of very corrupt organizations.
Well, they're in a very fine company. Let's put it that way.
I think the NCAA is one of the most exploitive organizations.
Of course. Okay, so let's talk about this real quick while we're on football. Probably 3 weeks ago, I'm watching C-SPAN because, running for office. And the Senate Judiciary Committee was meeting with NCAA officials. And what they were discussing was some kind of a player's bill of rights where if EA or whoever puts out Madden 2020 uses Bo Jackson's likeness, Bo Jackson gets money, right?
Right.
Well, they can't do that for a student athlete. They'd no longer be an amateur, right?
That's correct.
Trying to come up with some way where they can provide them with health insurance or some other incentives. But what I'm saying is every time money gets involved in this stuff, it screws the pooch. It kills the thing we love about it. And, I have a real problem with Nick Saban making 500 times more than the guy splitting atoms in the basement of the physics building. Okay. I got some real issues.
Very, very dangerous stance on wealth distribution for such a right-handed person as you.
No, but I know that guy that's splitting the atom in the basement is probably the smartest guy on the planet, but nobody cares what he has to say, and everybody cares what the guy making $7 million teaching people how to play football. Now,
I don't know.
Teaches them a lot of other things too.
Listen to Nick Saban talk. I mean, I hate to sound like a cultist, but the man is an unrequited coaching genius. Now, let's walk it back. Let's just walk it back for a second.
Tuberville has 7. I think it was 7 in a row he won. He's about to win another one because nobody's talking about his
guy that doesn't coach football anymore. And took
our state's he's going to be our United States senator if he beats Doug Jones.
Yeah, that's a huge step up from being the coach of one of the perennial football programs in the country. He's going to go to Washington, D.C. and find out he's basically powerless and could have done more from the coffee shop in Brewton, Alabama than he can from Washington, D.C. on the Senate floor. Now, walk it back just a little bit. Let's talk about money.
Okay.
As I said before, the NCAA and the SEC is 100% all about money. It's not about student athletes. It's not about championships. It's not about any of those things. It's about SEC TV money. Hundreds of millions of dollars a year allocated by the NCAA.
The SEC network now on ESPN, they have their own network.
Absolutely. They're the most powerful conference in college football. Financially and whatever, team sports, go team, whatever. Financially, absolutely, without a doubt, the most powerful conference in college football. They're going to call the shots as to whether college football happens this fall. As far as championships go, even Nick Saban said it. Every one of my student athletes should have the ability to play for a championship. Now, whether that be an NCAA sanctioned championship or some kind of made up coronavirus, we're going to play the Westminster Boys School for a championship trophy like they did during World War II, that remains to be seen.
A league of their own.
Right. But college football, as you know it right now, regardless of what happens within the next 3 months, college football, as you want it to happen, is not going to happen.
All right. I got to switch gears real quick. We've got 2 more stories we need to cover. There's a billboard down in Robertsdale, and it says some pretty ugly things about the incumbent. It's the headline is "Anybody But Charlie," meaning Charlie Murphy. And I swear, I think he's been mayor for 20. Is it possible it's 28 years?
Well, you see,
Maybe that's combined time on the council and mayor.
Right. And you see annual salary as mayor and utility superintendent, 93,000. That's exactly what the previous administration was doing in Fairhope until Mayor Wilson came in, separated it, refused to take the salary of utility director, and changed the whole thing around to where we're not robbing our utilities to go into our general fund. So I think that's something that they ought to do away with in Alabama. People drawing, this is a government official drawing two different salaries from the same city. So
Right.
I think that's controversial to begin with, to tell you the truth.
Well,
But
I
if
think
you
it's funny that somebody went to the trouble to take out a reader board, and I guarantee you that thing costs about $1,000 a week.
Yep.
Well, I'm very glad to see it because we haven't mentioned Robertsdale. So I'm glad to see that there's some citizens over there who feel passionate enough to get in their pocket and go after people that they think need to be out of office. So I admire whoever put that billboard up. I hope it works for them.
Well, our mantra's kind of been 2 terms and you're done and move
Right.
on to other things. And I know Mayor Murphy, known him for years, think he's a real good guy. And if I lived there, of course, I'm in a vacuum. He's the only person I know there, a couple of council members and business owners. Anyway, I've always thought a lot of him, but people start taking out billboards. Maybe it's time to go.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah,
So Trump admits he is undermining the U.S. Postal Service to make it harder to vote by mail. Now, I tried to find as neutral of a site as I could. Is The Guardian pretty neutral? They're
Yes.
across the pond, right?
Right.
Okay. So anyway, y'all can go check that out and see if that's anything you care to educate yourself on. And then I showed this a little earlier. One more time, the people on Rain side are winning. Now we can't call this what was it called? A McGowan's long spur. It was named after Confederate General John Porter McCown. I'm sorry, McCown. This bird is no longer known as the McCown's long spur. It is now called the thick-billed long spur, which I'm certain will make everybody feel a lot more safe and comfortable. What in the hellfire?
Nice bait, mate. Not biting today.
You're not biting?
Not on that.
Me?
No.
No, I'm not either.
Well, I just knew that was going to start a good little squabble.
You remember what I was saying earlier about made-up championships and shit? I'll take a little tiny trophy the size of a shot glass on my mantelpiece for getting that bird renamed. But in the grand scheme of things, I'm going for the cup, bud.
The
I got
cup.
my eye on the prize.
All right. Well, good luck to you, my friend.
Well, I'm done.
Paul,
Yeah.
Fairhope,
Yeah.
going crazy. Ziegler's
Do what?
talking about it. The state auditor's talking about the developer money pushing all these candidates down in Fairhope.
That is
Where do you
fantastic.
think he came across that information? Pray tell.
I don't know where he could have got that, but he's very well aware of the Catalyst brand, and that's for sure. And it also should be mentioned that Mayor Wilson was not only the first one to step up. I mean, step up and take a chance. I think Billy Joe Underwood did the same thing as a county commissioner, but and of course, everybody followed after that. After it hit 50,000 on the petition, is when all the politicians started flip-flopping and saying, "Oh, okay, yeah, we're not going to have a toll." And then they had a secondary plan that came up, and it totally flopped. And the reason that it flopped was the two principals behind pushing it were Jack Burrell and Dane Haygood. So, here you are again. There's Burrell again right in the middle of something like that. But
I'd like to answer the question, Alex. Who are 2 people I wouldn't let borrow my car?
2, I can think of more than that. Really.
All right. Rains.
Yep.
Any prospectus in Texas that things are getting any better?
We're seeing a little bit of mitigation here in Harris County. We're watching the schools very closely. My son is virtual learning. The learning curve there has been rather steep because, like I told him and I've explained to him on numerous occasions, this is the first time for everybody, not just you, but for your teachers as well. Teachers are having a real hard time with it because they've just been trained on it, and now is the execution. And as Paul Ripp will tell you very quickly and admonish extremely quickly, you can make all the plans, you can make all the plans and flow charts you want, and it all goes to shit as soon as the gun goes, as soon as contact goes down. So it's we've had a little bit of that. We're watching the schools very closely. We have had some reports, but I'm not believing them until I see them come out of the Harris County Health Department about some infections at local schools. We're waiting to see what the school districts do with that information. I'm
So
still
Wayne,
calling.
You know what a rotavirus is, right?
What a what?
A rotavirus, you know,
Yeah,
gives you an upset stomach, makes you throw up and all that, a little 24-hour virus. So every single year when the kids go back to school, little kids just carry that, and they don't get very sick from it. But they bring it home and get mom and daddy in the first couple of weeks. You're going to get this thing from your kid, right?
Yeah.
So if we know that happens, what do you think happens when coronavirus is going around?
Harry, how have we controlled the head lice problem in schools since the beginning of time? We haven't.
Shake your head?
We haven't. There is no control for something that spreads like that in a school.
Certainly not.
You can't get a 6-year-old to sit still and not say hell. You're going to have a heck of a making them sanitize their hands every 4 minutes.
Well, not these three when we were 6-year-olds. I can promise you that.
Exactly.
Right.
It's something that I'm watching with. I'm monitoring, I would say. We have seen some mitigation, and it's coming in the form of masks. There are more people wearing masks, at least when they go out. And one thing I can say is that the anti-mask crowd, the best part of it is they basically stick to themselves. You never see anti-mask people and mask people hanging out together. So we've got that going for us. I
live in an anti-mask town. I'm always hanging out with anti-mask people.
You need to. Yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, we're an anti-mask state, and it's taking mandates and orders for people just to have common sense. But that being said, you know, Harry, you and I had a conversation very early on, back in February, and you said something extremely insensitive about coronavirus and how it's going to infect the population. And be that you're in a local election now, I would never deign to repeat it. But I would tell you right now that back then I had a lot more empathy.
That's what I said.
I had a lot more empathy for victims of the coronavirus back then than I do now. I almost see it as it's getting close to an elective around here and not core curriculum. So I would say I agree with you now. We could probably do with a thinning of the herd, as it were. But I've got to say something, because you guys spend the majority of this podcast going over the same old stuff. We've got to do something to get people watching, and we've got to do something to get people listening. So I am offering up a prize. I am offering up a prize. I don't call them bounties. We learned that from Sam White. You don't call them bounties. I'm offering up a prize, a very personal prize, to anyone who can pick a 10-team parlay for any of the elections in Lower Alabama right now, in our readership and viewership area and listeners area. I'm offering up a personalized prize for anybody that can basically box a trifecta and pick a 10-team parlay of who's going to win and who's going to lose. And I'll take the lightning bets as well. A personal prize that'll be named later. And I'm going to put up a small cash prize.
And you're going to throw it on the end of this podcast? You want people just to...
I'm going to put it out there. I want people to contact us through social media, through Facebook, backstory.com, or backstorypodcast.com, or Twitter, or any of the platforms that we have, and put out there who you think, not you don't tell us who you're voting for, but you say these are who's going to win these elections. You hit a 10-team parlay, you got a big prize coming your way. I'll say that right now.
Are you going to give them that Bear Bryant Coca-Cola over your right shoulder?
That's
a long way around here.
That's a prize that many people covet, few people still have. And no, that is not up for grabs. You'll pry that out.
I got 6 up in the attic. I'll put one up.
You got 6 up in the attic? No wonder you can't win a damn case. You got an Auburn curse in your attic. You need to do something.
I have an Albee Coke over here on my bar, so where people can see it. The shameful Alabama Cokes are kept for sentimental reasons. They weren't mine. They were someone else.
I have a Christmas Day Coca-Cola bottle found under the Pettus Bridge when we were diving for Civil War artifacts, and I believe the year is 1946. And I found it under the bridge. And what they did in Selma too is they used to retire the deputies' badges or the police badges. When they retired a number, they would throw it off the bridge. And they were doing this in the 40s and the 50s. And we found one of those badges at that time too. But let me go back and say one other thing. You know, we've been talking about this COVID and we're talking about schools. I just want to say a real special shout out to the teachers. I know this is just going to be immensely tough for them. And also I can tell you in Vero, with my grandkids, I've been very, very impressed with the teachers, and you could just see the love and affection for these kids. It's not just teaching. This is their kids. So I hope that everybody's safe, and I really respect them for, you know, trying to do this. I hope it works out.
Who knows? So all sounds like a big crapshoot to me with people's lives on the line.
Well, we'll know soon.
Okay. Well, all right, guys. This weekend, what's on tap? It was Sturgis last weekend. What's going on, Rains? Things to keep your eye on.
I'm gonna sit in my garage.
They're playing baseball with nobody in the stands. What else is going on?
I'm not a sports guy anymore. I'm gonna be enjoying the heat wave from the open garage door of the Rushin Ranch. I'm about to throw together some patented Rains Rushin Mad Dog margaritas here in just a little while and enjoy the end of the week.
I hear you. So I have because ammo's expensive. I have a recurve bow, and I've been shooting that thing like I'm mad at it. About 100 arrows an afternoon, getting pretty dang good. I'm gonna start squirrel hunting with that thing if I get much better. So anyway, I'm trying to do productive things with my time in solitude. You know what I mean?
I'm 100% politics for the next 7 till the election day. I'm doing everything I can do to help people that are not catalyst candidates, including contributing money to certain campaigns. And like I said, I want people to realize we're a not-for-profit. So, you know, we're just trying to encourage brand new candidates to get in and get the catalyst candidates out.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, I hope I may say comrades and friends, before your minds, I exempt myself from the Speaker's kind offer of protection that was so generously proffered at the opening of this evening. Anyone who wants to say anything abusive about or to me is quite free to do so, and welcome, in fact, at their own risk. It's not just the right of the person who speaks to be heard. It is the right of everyone in the audience to listen and to hear. And every time you silence somebody, you make yourself a prisoner of your own action because you deny yourself the right to hear something. In other words, your own right to hear and be exposed is as much involved in all these cases as is the right of the other to voice his or her view. Indeed, as John Stuart Mill said, if all in society were agreed on the truth and beauty and value of one proposition, all except one person, it would be most important. In fact, it would become even more important that that one heretic be heard, because we would still benefit from his perhaps outrageous or appalling view in more modern times. This has been put, I think, best by a personal heroine of mine, Rosa Luxemburg, who said that the freedom of speech is meaningless unless it means the freedom of the person who thinks differently. My great friend John O'Sullivan, former editor of the National Review, and I think probably my most conservative and reactionary Catholic friend, once said, it's a tiny thought experiment, he says, if you hear the Pope saying he believes in God, you think, well, the Pope's doing his job again today. If you hear the Pope saying he's really begun to doubt the existence of God, you begin to think he might be onto something. Well, if everybody in North America is forced to attend at school training in sensitivity on Holocaust awareness and is taught to study the final solution, about which nothing was actually done by this country or North America or the United Kingdom while it was going on, but let's say as if in compensation for that, everyone's made to swallow an official and unalterable story of it now, and it's taught as the great moral exemplar, the moral equivalent of the morally lacking elements of the Second World War, the way of stilling our uneasy conscience about that combat. If that's the case with everybody, as it more or less is, and one person gets up and says, you know what, this Holocaust, I'm not sure it even happened. In fact, I'm pretty certain it didn't. Indeed, I begin to wonder if the only thing is that the Jews brought a little bit of violence on themselves. That person doesn't just have a right to speak. That person's right to speak must be given extra protection, because what he has to say must have taken him some effort to come up with, might contain a grain of historical truth, might in any case give people to think about why do they know what they already think they know. How do I know that I know this, except that I've always been taught this and never heard anything else? It's always worth establishing first principles. It's always worth saying, what would you do if you met a Flat Earth Society member? Come to think of it, how can I prove the Earth is round? Am I sure about the theory of evolution? I know it's supposed to be true. Here's someone who says there's no such thing, it's all intelligent design. How sure am I of my own views? Don't take refuge in the false security of consensus and the feeling that whatever you think, you're bound to be okay because you're in the safely moral majority. My own opinion is enough for me, and I claim the right to have it defended against any consensus, any majority, anywhere, any place, any time. And anyone who disagrees with this can pick a number, get online, and kiss my ass.